Good evening, everyone. Happy Monday and happy holidays. Welcome to the Bladensburg Town Council's Town Council meeting for Monday, December the 12th, 2022. We're now called to order. We'll begin tonight's meeting with an opening prayer by Councilmember McBride. And following the opening prayer, we'll observe a moment of silence for two individuals who meant a lot to the Prince George's County community. And that is with the passing of Sheriff Melvin High last month in November, and also Delegate Tawana Gaines, who was another public servant who did a lot of amazing things for the Prince George's County community. So with that, I'll turn it over to Councilmember McBride. Councilmember, I'm sorry, you're muted.
Thank you. Okay, we'll first go into our moment of silence for those we've lost. Amen. Gracious Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for our life, our health, and our strength. We thank you for bringing us together once again, and those that are assembled with us on Zoom today. We ask you to continue to bless us and strengthen us. Give us the guidance that we need, Father, to make wise decisions concerning our towns and wherever we need to be or whatever we need to do. We ask you to also remember our young people on today, those that are losing their lives early. We pray for their mental state. We pray for them in their schools and their homes. We ask you to continue to remember your neighbors as well as yourself. We ask you to continue to love on one another, be encouraged, be uplifted, and be blessed. Gracious Father, we thank you for all these things. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilmember McBride. At this time, we'll turn it over to Councilmember Brown to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Gray, could you please put the flag up for us? There it is.
Thank you. You ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Brown. At this time, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Moved by Councilmember Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Rout. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. At this time, we'll move right into our appearances. We have two scheduled for tonight's council meeting. We're pleased to welcome Ms. Eva Webb, who is a CPA and principal with the firm Linton, Schaefer, Warfield, and Garrett. They're the public accountants who are working for the town and have completed our FY22 audit. And so Ms. Webb, we'll turn it over to you, or actually, let me just pause. Mr. Tonelli, did you want to say anything before Ms. Webb begins tonight?
No, it's been a great process. We're in our third or fourth year with the firm, and had nothing but great results. With that, I guess for time purposes, I'll turn over to Ms. Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Tonelli. And Ms. Webb, we do have 20 minutes on the agenda. We're hoping for about a 10 or so minute presentation so we can have time for the council to ask some questions as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Here we go. All right. So as the mayor mentioned, we have completed the audit of the fiscal year 22 results for the town of Bladensburg. So the report is 45 pages long, so condensing it into 10 minutes is always a challenge. So I am really going to do a very high level overview. I am going to pause here on the audit report. So management, you'll see here in bold, management is responsible for the financial statements, and all we do as auditors is express an opinion on those financial statements. And so you'll see right here at the top, the opinion has been changed a little bit. It used to be buried at the bottom, and now the standards require it to be right here at the very beginning of the report. But you'll see, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. And so what that means is the town has a clean, unmodified audit opinion, which doesn't always sound like a good thing, but this is the best report that you can ask for. So congratulations on that. I will point out here on the second page, if you were to look at last year's audit, you wouldn't see any of these items on it. This is new. There was a new standard that was implemented during the year. And so I am going to go through it just a little bit. It's a good reminder. These are things that we've always done as auditors, but they've never been written and communicated with the council before. So, you know, when we are performing the audit, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism. That's important because we are independent of management. We identify and assess the risk of material misstatement, and that helps us determine what procedures we're going to perform. We do obtain an understanding of internal controls, and we evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policies. And finally, we determine whether or not you are a going concern, meaning that you are going to be around in 12 months. So you'll see here the date was left blank. You do have a responsibility as the council and the mayor to review and approve these financial statements. And so once that takes place, that's when we will date it. I'm going to skip through the management's discussion and analysis. It's a required element of the financial statements, but it really is just a summary of sort of the financial results. So Exhibit A1 is our statement of net position. And so this reflects all of the assets and all of the liabilities of the town. So you'll see for fiscal year 22, your total assets were $11,614,000. And if you look up above, most of it is current assets, about 9.2 million. And most of that number consists of cash and investments. All organizations, all municipalities have liabilities at the end of the year. And so I will point out your total liabilities at the end of last year were $2,835,000. The largest piece of that being your pension liability of about 1.7 million. So the difference between our assets and our deferred resources and our liabilities and our deferred inflows is what's known as net position. And you'll see that number for the year ended June 30, 2022 is a little under 6.5 million. So essentially these are your reserves, and there's different categories, and we'll talk about those in a few minutes. The next statement is your statement of program activities. If you were a for-profit, this would be your income statement. The format is a little bit different than what most people are looking at because it starts with expenses rather than revenues. But I really do, I've come to like it. So for municipals, you guys have expenses that are associated with your different sort of departments, right? So you have general government, you have public safety, about 4.3 million, public works, and then a little bit of interest. So your total expenses last year were almost 3 million, 6.3 million. We do have some charges for services, about 218,000. We also get some grant contributions, right? The town does about 925,000 last year. So you take your expenses and you offset it by these program revenues, and it shows you that you needed to accumulate more revenue, right? A $5.1 million deficit. So what municipalities do is they levy taxes. So your town had income taxes of about 670,000 last year and property taxes of a little under 4.8 million. So you'll see the most important number on this page is your change in net position or your net income for fiscal year 22, almost 390,000. The next two statements are the fund level financial statements. So the difference between these two statements and the ones I just presented were these only capture currently available resources. So it doesn't include capital assets, it doesn't include debt. So you'll see over here on the right-hand column, your assets were 9.1 million and your liabilities about 543,000. Again, the reconciliation at the bottom down here shows you the difference. So we didn't have any leased assets or any long-term liabilities, and we also didn't have any capital assets. Same thing here on our statement of revenues and expenditures. The column here on the right for our total governmental funds, our total revenues for the town for fiscal year 22, 6.7 million, our expenditures, 6.8 million. So we had an excess expenditures over revenue of about 93,000. We do have some other financing sources, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So our fund balance at the end of last year was 6.4 million. This statement is just a reconciliation of the two different sets of statements, the fund level and the government wide. The next, like I said, 10 minutes is pretty short for 45 pages, but we do have 21 pages of the notes. So Vito's gone through and he's combed through it to make sure everything in here is accurate. Note 1 just includes all of the accounting policies that the town currently uses. So I tend to just focus on anything new or different. The only thing really significantly new in the current year is on page 9, and that is the implementation of the new lease accounting standard. I know in our presentations in prior years, we had talked about this coming down the pike. So in the past, we would have just expensed these amounts as we incurred them. Now we have to record them as a capital lease and amortize it over the life of the lease, and we have to record the liability and reduce it by payments as we move forward. So currently you guys have some leases for tasers and for body cameras. Next note I wanted to mention was the note about long-term debt. That's on page 13. And just a reminder, page 12 and page 13, there is a little bit of outstanding debt related to that general obligation bond. And here are the principal payments that are required next year. And again, those leases here are the principal payments that are required in the future on those. It's also important to mention sort of the amounts that are restricted or assigned or committed. So right here, the council has established a reserve fund of about 750,000, and that's through our emergency fund. You also have assigned fund balance of about 668,000, and you have a restricted fund balance of about 473,000. There's several pages of notes related to the retirement plan. And the last one I wanted to talk about, actually there are two, sorry, ARPA. I know you guys are probably super excited about the amount of funds that you received related to the ARPA funds. So I just wanted to point out where that was here in the financial statements. So it's here included in note 6. And the last one was note 7, where we did implement that new accounting principle related to the leases. And so I just wanted to point that out since it was new. The only other sort of item I wanted to point out, because I think it's important, is the budget versus actual. I know that you guys look at this on a monthly basis. And so just a reminder that these are included in your audited financial statements. So you have your original budget, your final budget, and your actual amounts. So it's important here to note your final budgeted revenues were 6,469,000. Your actual received was 6,725,000. So that's a great, you have a positive 255,000 there. And the same thing on the expense side, you had budgeted 7,005,000 and your actual expenditures were less, 6,783,000. There's a couple schedules related to the net pension liability. And essentially what it shows is that your contractually required contribution was 281,000 and you did make that required contribution last year. All right, I think I did okay, Mayor. Was that about 10 minutes?
That was really thorough and really fast.
As
So
close as I can get to 10 minutes.
yeah, thank you, thank you.
Awesome.
I just appreciate you going through it, but don't, we still have some time left. I'm watching the clock. And just wanted to ask Mr. Tonelli, were there any specific areas you wanted to highlight?
As you said, Mayor, I think she did a very thorough job. We budgeted to use, I want to say almost like $600,000 out of our fund balance last year. And, we were very fortunate not have to use just about any of it. So it was, again, not knowing what the full impact of the pandemic was on everything. And we had some surprises across the state too for income tax. Revenue came in a lot higher than projected, which was seen across all municipalities and the counties as well. Of course, the ARPA funding helped, but that was more money in and money out, though. That wasn't really funding any operating expenses. And again, it was just another very solid year, and we're fortunate again coming out of uncertainty. So it's and we could keep doing what we do best, serving the residents.
Thank you for that, Mr. Tonelli. I want to turn it over to the council for any questions or comments. While you're coming off mute, I do want to just say it is encouraging to hear that we've had another clean audit with no findings. That is critical for the financial well-being of the town and good for our residents to know that we continue to remain in good standing from an accountability standpoint. Any comments or questions? I don't see any hands raised. I'm just double checking. Okay. Well, thank you again, Ms. Webb. And so just from a procedural standpoint, I know we have to review the audit and actually vote tonight to accept it. And then is that the point at which, once you're notified, where you go back to, I forget the page number with
Yes.
the letter and update that information?
Yes. Yep. So as soon as you guys vote to approve it, we'll put the date in there, and then we have the extension through the end of the month. So we will go ahead and submit it to the state.
And then, because this was different too, in terms of not just the initial part of it, but also the fact that it still said draft on it. Normally we get the booklets. So
Yes.
the state will receive the one without the
They receive the
watermark.
final. Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Blunt, did I see your hand up for a second? I'm sorry. You're
Yeah,
muted.
this might not have, I'm just curious, when we get donations from organizations and stuff, would that show on this report, or that's a whole total nother report?
No, it shows. Yeah, so that on the statement of program activities, that exhibit A2, it's in that column that's included that says operating grants and contributions. So any revenues that you would receive from donations are put in with all of the other town funds and
Oh,
reported.
it's not broken down to where the donations came from and how much it was?
It's just included in some of the larger numbers on here. But yes, if it was for a specific purpose, like if it was a donation for general government, it would go on the general government line. Or if it was a donation for something else, it would go on a separate line.
Okay, but it's not broken down by who gave it, how much money it was. It's just all goes into one bucket.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Our
Thank
internal
you.
internal statements have it broken down, and we keep track of it. And the audit is more of like a macro of a summary of
Big picture.
everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is good to know that the detail of it is housed somewhere, just in case we ever have to come back and show that information.
Sure.
Thank
Always.
you. Yes. So with that I know we will come back to
Mayor James, I just have one question.
Sure, give me 1 second. I was just trying to double check. Mr. Tonelli, for the council to vote on the audit, I just realized it's not under
I'm looking at that too.
financial business.
Maybe have to make a motion to
Yeah, when we
amend
get,
the agenda to insert it in there.
yeah, so let me just make a note so when we get down there. While I do that, Councilmember Rout, you had a question?
Yes, so is there anywhere that we would include our earmarks? Don't know if what's the mechanism for our federal contribution that we received. Is
Thank
that
you for
not
that
accounted
question.
for?
So, Mr. Tonelli, your hand is up. Were you
Oh, it is up?
to answer that? It looks like it on my end. Or Mr. Tonelli, you're off mute. You want to go ahead? He may have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know my hand was up.
Oh, no, Rich's was up. Now you are,
Oh, I'm
sorry.
sorry. Okay, is it to me or Rich? I'm sorry.
Well, I wasn't sure if his hand up was to answer or if he had a separate question.
Next year, we're going to, with the ARPA funding, with the amount of funds that we are expending, we're going to have additional work to be done for to create a single audit on top of what we already have, which is more of like a programmatic audit on top of the financial audit. And I'll let Ms. Webb expand on that more.
Yeah, so council member on, and I can share my screen real quick to go back to it. We do, any earmarks that you guys have, they are included in those categories of fund balance that I was talking about. So your committed fund balance was 750 and your adopted budget for fiscal year 23 includes some assignments for the projected use of the fund balance. So it was probably included in here. I don't think for you guys by the end of fiscal year 22 that you had determined, and I could be incorrect, that you had determined specifically what the ARPA funds were going to be used for. And so that's not reflected in here, but it will be in the future if you have an outlined plan for the expenditures.
And Ms. Webb, just to clarify, and council member, tell me if I'm wrong, but when she mentioned the federal earmark, so that's $1 million earmark. We have not yet received the physical funding, I don't believe, from the federal government. So I don't believe that would be reflected.
Sorry, Siri was talking to y'all. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was like, wait a
It was
minute.
Siri. It was Siri. It was Siri. It was Siri.
I was looking, I'm like, your mouth isn't moving, but I hear
No,
a
it's not
voice.
me. Sorry.
Sorry, Ms. Webb, you were saying.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so it has not been included in these fiscal year 22 statements, but likely would be included in the fiscal year 23 statements. But just to briefly touch on what Vito was saying, because I know it's all of the councils have been asking us the same thing. With the ARPA funding, if you expend, not receive, expend more than $750,000 in a single year, we do have to do that higher level audit. So it really is, it's a compliance audit. And I know everybody's tired of hearing it because we've all sat in on the 30 million MML webinars, right? But it is a lot of work. And so all I've been telling my clients, because all of our clients have really good controls over disbursements, is just to keep doing what you're doing. So if you have a control that says, you're going to have dual signatures on checks, keep doing that. And then just to make sure you're documenting, and you guys run a fabulous meeting. So just continue to document any decisions you're making in the council meetings, and that will hold up and support the decisions that you make 5 years from now.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And thank you for the question, Mr. Charnovich. We're at the end of our time. Did you have one more brief question for Ms. Webb? You're muted, Mr. Charnovich.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. No, I was just touching on the procedural. I was going to mention the procedural component. So I did put a small note at the end of the appearances on the agenda about the audit approval. While it's not a specific line item in the financial business area, like I wasn't sure if the council wanted to act to accept and approve immediately after the discussion with the auditor versus putting it on the financial business end. I think you're able to do it either way, but I wanted to point that out that in theory, you could take the action right now, but, or you could just defer it down to the financial business section.
Okay,
Thank you, Mayor.
for that. Councilmember Rout.
Mayor James, I move to accept and approve the 2020, the financial statement for the year ended June 30, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Brown. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. And Ms. Webb, similar to last year when you gave us the presentation, you made the offer that if we wanted you to come back, go a little more in depth on it, that you were open to that. So we,
100%.
if we have further questions and want to ask you to come back and talk with us additionally, we will work that through Mr. Tonelli's office.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Have a
you for
great
having me.
evening and happy holidays.
All right, you too.
Thank you. And so at this time, we'll move forward with another highly anticipated presentation from none other than Mr. Samuel L. White Jr. With respect to the Bladensburg Market and Feasibility Study, which was done by the Prince George's County Planning Department. And so this has been a long time in the making. We got this research funded actually through Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. And so, Mr. White, we're excited to hear your presentation tonight and would like to just follow the same format where you present for 10 or so minutes and we have some time for questions at the end.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank
Let me
you.
go ahead and try to share my screen. Let's see, I think it's screen number 2. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Great, thank you. Again, good evening, Mayor James and member of the council. My name is Samuel White. I'm a planner 2 with the Prince George's Planning Department. I'm also the project manager for the town of Bladensburg Market Feasibility and Economic Development Study. Okay. In the fall of 2019, the town of Bladensburg applied for the Prince George's County Planning Department to fund a market feasibility and economic study. The purpose of the study was to determine the best uses available under the prior and current zone for redevelopment of 17 acres of commercial and publicly owned property on both sides of 450, which is Annapolis Road, and Kenilworth Avenue. Both sides of 450 between Kenilworth Avenue and 51st Street. The study will also assist in the revitalization effort and implement the Bladensburg Town Center character area recommended in the approved 2009 Forest Town Plan that will economically feasibly in the town market, in today's market, Funding for the project was approved by the Prince George's County Planning Board on May 28, 2020. Through the Community Planning Division's Planning and Assistance in Municipalities and Communities program. The blue border shows the study area. A kickoff meeting was held with the consultant, Sarah Woodworth of WZH LLC, to discuss contract and billing, publication standards, information management, and data specification. Also, a walking tour of the study area was held with town council member, staff, and the consulting team to discuss the town's vision for the area. During the process, key stakeholders interviews were conducted to gather background information. This map shows, let me go up a little bit. This map shows the prior zoning, which can be used until April of 2024. Right now, we know that may be extended, but I don't know whether the bill has been approved, but right now it goes to April 2024, but it might have been a bill that had been approved that allowed you to use either the previous zoning or the prior zone, the current zone which you have now. The mixed-use transit-oriented development zone, which is MXT, provides for a variety of residential, commercial, and employment uses. Redevelopment of these properties must be also conform to the DDO, which we call a Development District Overlay standards to ensure height, tree state elements, facade treatments that are consistent with desired character for the area. This slide shows the current zone. The purpose of the CS zone, which is commercial service zone, are to provide a constraint of retail sales and services, including oriented commercial uses, office, eating and drinking establishment, and B, to accommodate medium to moderate high density residential development as part of the mixed use development. The purpose of the CN zone is to buy A, lands for a range of small scale, low intense retail and services commercial development that provide goods and services primarily to serve the daily needs of residents immediately surrounding the neighborhoods. And B, to ensure development intensity and development forms that are consistent with pedestrian friendly and neighborhood scale traditional Main Street character that are well connected and are compatible with the surrounding areas, and that do not attract significant traffic from outside the surrounding areas, which is always a key point. The study area focused on 3 sites identified by the town potential for redevelopment. The first, the Port of Bladensburg Shopping Center. The second, Partial Assembly. And the third, the Bladensburg Shopping Center. The Port of Bladensburg Shopping Center is 4 acres and sloped down to the northwest. At the corner of 51st Street and Annapolis Road, the site is at a 70-foot elevation. At Emerson Road, the site is at a 40-foot elevation, advantageous for tuck-under parking. Therefore, the redevelopment plan assumes a mix of surface parking and parking under the building. Among the 3 given sites, given its size, topography, and parking constraints, the Port of Bladensburg Shopping Center has the greatest redevelopment capacity. Given the market rents, and the development cost assumption, however, redevelopment is infeasible under both the MXT or the current CS zone. Regardless of the zone, public subsidies will be required to attract a third-party development. On this site, meaning redevelopment will require assemblage of 5 independent-owned properties. Together, these sites total approximately 2.4 acres and have an estimate value of $2.34 million. Land assembly typically increase property acquisition costs because the development needs to negotiate with multiple owners. A land acquisition premium of 20% was applied to reflect the reality. A $250,000 allowance for existing leasing buyout was assumed. This lease buyout allowance is lower than the shopping centers because it assumes that many of the tenants in these older buildings do not have long-term lease. Although the property acquisition and leasing buyouts costs are lower on this site, the subsidy is still required to make redevelopment feasible under both the prior MXT and the current CS zone. Southeast, the wood importance of this site has steep slopes, reduce the area available for redevelopment. Surface parking is assumed. Public subsidies will be necessary to realize redevelopment. The cost of the property and lease buyout costs make redevelopment challenging on this site under the prior MXT and the current CN zone. The retail market analysis conclude that the market can support additional convenience and discount retail, fast food, and takeout restaurants. The national credit tenants in these categories can afford the $25 per square foot triple net rate like required for newly constructed spaces. The paradox of redevelopment for community betterment is that of high cost of new construction virtually require high rental rates. High rates may preclude independent retailers and restaurants, the very establishment that contribute to the study area character and serve the local population. The community may want to consider conditioning any redevelopment subsidies upon below market commercial spaces rents. The residential market analysis conclude that over the next 5 years, the market could support rental residential projects of 130 to 150 units in the study area. This conclusion assumes an average rent of $1,900 per month or $2.50 per leased square foot. To stay affordable, smaller units have been assumed with an average unit size of 762 square feet. This assumption is a mix of 20% studio, 60% of 1-bedroom units, and 20% of 2-bedroom units. As in the case of many of the urban redevelopment projects not served by transit, parking drives development programs and economics, Bladensburg is an untested market for multifamily development. For this reason, the study concludes that a project may be successful with relatively low rates. This competitive rate, however, would not support structured parking. Therefore, much of the density allowed in an MXC zone cannot be utilized. Public sector gap funding will be necessary to incite redevelopment of all 3 potential sites. The subsidies is required both under the prior and the current zone. The Portstown sector plan is scheduled for an update in fiscal year 2020, which will offer opportunity to revisit the vision and the rezoning for the study area. Over this period, the market could change and also clear a path for new development. On this slide, what you see is recommended next steps: improve competitive position, preserve inventive and creative intervention to civic infrastructure to transform the image. And it gives example for each of those. And the next step also is to utilize the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, the Sustainable Community Designation, which are funding that you can actually utilize. And that concludes staff presentation.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. White, for walking us through the analysis from the study. It was certainly helpful to have more precise information in terms of what realistically would work in this market that we're in currently. So we understand as we build out that bigger vision for redevelopment on our main corridor, what's realistic. I do want to give our council a chance. Let me scroll down, I'm sorry, and see if there's any raised hands. I do not see any at this time, but I will say I know the project did get slowed down just due to staffing and due to the pandemic. And so we're not as far along as we thought we would be back in 2017 or 2018. And so we're working to get a town administrator in here within the next few months. Once that position is filled, then having that leadership role stood up will help us to be able to get back on track, because previously, a few administrators back, she had actually organized a redevelopment task force. Exactly. And so convening that group really was helping to have regular meetings to keep moving the vision forward. So between staff departures and COVID, as I said, we've had some real setbacks here, but are looking to turn things around in 2023. And a huge part of that is having this data so we can make some sound decisions as discussions start to move forward. Councilmember Brown, I'm sorry, I just scrolled back up and saw your hand.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks for that wonderful presentation. Just really real quick. So it seems like, sounds like our challenges are with the zoning? In terms of with redeveloping, when they, talking about this parcel, that parcel, and all that connecting together, sounds like, we have a problem with the zoning that's probably, that we're causing us some issues right now to move forward.
That is correct. What it focuses on is the current zone that you had and the previous zone that you had. And I think that there was an issue from the previous administrator that the proposed at that time, the CS zone allowed for different audio-oriented land uses on that side, which was not in favor of the town direction at that particular time. And that's why we included that in 2024, you might want to revisit and see if there another zone that will allow you to have the vision of a town center down in that area.
Yeah, and
zoning,
oh, I'm sorry,
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
White.
no, I would say you definitely want to revisit the zoning, but what it actually does also, even if you have the zoning, you had the MXT zoning for a number of years, the plan was actually done in 2009, and nothing really happened in that area. So how can we, and I think one of the next steps was, how can you rebrand it? You can build upon the Portstown brand, but how can you also brand it where Bladensburg is more identified and also get you those uses that you want to see there? Since you got the new library that's going to be right on the corner at Emerson, is really nice. You got the waterfront that's like a little bit further down. You got Peace Crosses there. I think it tries to look at different ways that you can actually achieve that vision that you want. But zoning is the key to it. And doing that process when the sector plan is initiated, you definitely might want to you definitely want to revisit that.
And then just to add on to that, Councilmember Brown, there were a number of conversations and meetings while this was going forward, the zone map amendment rewrite. And this is pre-COVID. So we even had our county council member, Jolene Ivy, here. We had our state delegates here, and I believe Senator Augustine in the town hall, explaining why we were advocating not to have that portion of Annapolis Road designated as CS. We did not want a situation where, I won't say the name of the firms, but the car dealerships come in, purchase land for very cheap, and just throw up these huge car lots, whether used or brand new. We wanted to prevent that. And we were not successful in advocating for that. I know they had hearings, we spoke up, we wrote. Again, we had our representatives come out, and we did not have that occur. But to Mr. White's point, and in reading through the plan, I did see that we're up for another rewrite of the Port Town Sector Plan in 2024. So I think that gives us some time to really figure out what is our vision and the theme. There were some things that were thrown out in the previous Port Town Sector Plan, such as we want to be, I think they called it the sustainable or the green street or green district. Those things didn't quite take off, but I think there's some other opportunities. And not that we want to totally separate ourselves from the look and feel of the port towns, but I do think if we could be creative with how we call ourselves the historic district to capitalize on our historic assets and have a certain look and feel that really celebrates that, preserves and protects those structures, but also has some modern
Modernization, yeah.
exactly, modern brick. And, I think we can marry those two looks together to really give ourselves a unique look and stand out. And we talked about other things like the signage along Annapolis Road, working with SHA to even redo the light posts so that when you ride through the historic, beautiful town of Bladensburg, it looks like you're riding through the historic, beautiful town of Bladensburg. So we've got some time in 2023 amongst our team here to come up with some ideas to engage our residents in trying to move this forward. And I was typing fast, Mr. White, trying to get those recommended next steps down. And I know they're in the summary document too, so that we can really start building out our checklist based upon those recommendations that were provided by you in the planning department. Councilmember Rod, I see your hand. I want to bring you into the discussion.
Thank you, Mayor James. I definitely agree with what you stated. And I also want to reiterate that we had agreed that we wanted to go to the placemaking part of the park National Capital Parks and Planning Commission so that they can really work with us on what that vision is for this corridor so that we can appeal and become ready for 24. Because like time is of the essence, because if we show proof that this is what we have been doing to create, I don't know if it's, you know, I don't know, let's dream a little bit, a battle, Bladensburg battle-ish kind of feel, or whatever we choose as a as a community, then we have more leverage right now to be able to change what our zoning code is. So, you know, I would like to be, you know, work on this work group to, you know, move this forward, or I don't know how we're going to do this, but I just really think that we need to go next to placemaking so that they can assist us like they did in other parts of Prince George's County.
And that's the thing, Mr. White, and I know we've got 2 minutes left, but we do, as I said, want to make note of these next steps. So while we're working to backfill that administrator, we're not sitting 100% not doing anything, but at least taking some incremental steps to get there, because to Councilmember Rout's point, this next year is going to go quickly. And what I've noticed is for the residents, businesses, all those folks who came to all those charrettes and stakeholder meetings before, they felt discouraged that there wasn't a big shift in the look and feel of the town with the development. And so I want to learn from that so that we take different steps so that we actually create action and change and make the community allow them to see the change and be a part of it, but then also to have the outcome as you mentioned, the new library coming. So they're naturally going to want to know what's next, and we want to be prepared to show them we're working on what's next. So again, we really appreciate you taking the time, especially this late on a Monday, to be with us. But we will also circle back though and asking if you could help us connect to the team who deals with the placemaking and understanding what it takes to move that forward. And perhaps we can have them come to the council work session and just give us some information next month or whenever it's convenient for them to meet with our team.
Well, I'm glad that you said that, because right now I know staff is in the planning phase of the Portstown sector plan. And also I can definitely give you the contact information for placemaking. And at the end of this month, I'm retiring. So somebody will be taking my place. So this matter of fact, this will be the last computer.
No, you can't go. No.
Are you sure? You look like you're having fun, Mr. White. You're not quite ready.
I had a great time, and I said I had a great time, but the staff there are great. And one thing that I wanted to do was to make sure that they made those connections. So I will definitely do that tomorrow. I will forward it to the supervisor for placemaking. Also will forward the information to the project manager for the Portstown plan. And I told her about the study, and also the town of Evanston did a study that they can use this to support exactly what you want to do. Because that biggest concern, it was to see a zone. And we did a one-to-one. I was a part of the group, and based on the matrix, that's the zone that you got. It justified it. But now you can revisit it and say, well, we don't want that zone, and this is the reason why. You can use this because this is more realistic of what you could do. But like I said, in the future, you can always go for a different zone to get you what you want. So that would be great. But I'll make sure tomorrow you will definitely be hearing from them.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, Mr. White, congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. As a Prince George's County resident, we are grateful for your many, many years of professional and dedicated service, and just wish you all the best as you move on to the next chapter.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate it.
All right. Take care, sir. And we'll look forward to getting your email.
Yes, you will.
Okay.
You all have a great night.
You as well. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So thank you all for the great discussion there. Lots of good ideas and so forth. Uh-oh, beautiful picture.
Uh-oh. Yeah, that's me and my my lovely wife.
Yes, Miss AKA.
Yes. I'm trying to, let's see how you log off. I'm trying to log off here.
Oh,
Let me
I,
stop sharing.
there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I didn't want to show my wife, but then again, I love showing my wife. And if you guys see me on Facebook, you always have this saying out here in these streets, the life of AK and the cute is traveling around. But anyway.
On that note.
On that note, I'm out of here.
Thank
Y'all have a good
you.
evening.
You
Bye-bye.
too, you too. Bye-bye. All right, so with that, we concluded the portion of the meeting set aside for appearances, and we'll move forward with item number 6 with the approval of the council meeting minutes for November 14th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by, was that Councilmember Rout? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Blunt. Any discussion or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. At this time, we will move into public comment. Oh, there's a message. Okay, so there were no public comments received over the weekend.
Oh.
Mr. Charnovich, go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you, Mayor. I did receive one public comment. I was posting that note in the chat. Just real quick before I read the one public comment I received. If anybody on the public submitted one this weekend, we are undertaking a massive email migration into a brand new email server. So emails are like gradually coming in. So it's if I did not get it, I posted in the chat where you can send it to, and I will either address it or read it at a later time, or I'll make sure it's read at a public meeting and circulated to the council. But the comment that I did receive, I can read into the record. The comment is from Carletta Lundy, town resident. Hello, Bladensburg Mayor and Council. Maryland allows local government jurisdictions, such as the town of Bladensburg, to enact rent control policies. So I'm writing to you asking and hope that on behalf of town residents, you would join fellow Maryland legislators throughout the state to enact legislation for rent stabilization, sometimes referred to as rent control, that would legally regulate how often and by how much landlords may increase the rent of given units. Also consider other legislation such as eviction-related legislation, granting space to assemble and organizing rights, property tax exemptions for seniors, veterans, disabled, and other vulnerable town residents. I truly believe Bladensburg is positioned to be a powerful voice in enacting sensible legislation for renters. Furthermore, ensuring town residents have access to quality, affordable housing is a human right and a bipartisan issue. Therefore, lawmakers at all levels have a significant role in this, and all must work collaboratively to prioritize solutions for Marylanders. There is also the need for the supply and availability of rental housing at all price points. Our neighbors are addressing the very real mounting anxiety about rising rents and are still struggling with and recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. So on behalf of town residents, it's imperative during this cycle that you act and consider passing rent stabilization and rent protection policies. God bless you and thank you for considering this request. Carletta Lundy, town resident. And that is the only public comment that I've received, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Charnovich, for reading that, and also for noting the situation with the migration of emails on the server, just because we don't want residents to feel like we're ignoring their comments. It is really taking a long time for everything to migrate over, and just appreciate your patience if we don't receive the comments and have to hold them and read them at next month's meeting. At this time, we'll move forward with unfinished business, which is the ordinance adoption for a Comcast cable franchise agreement. So Mr. Charnovich, we'll turn that over to you for the second reading.
More reading, oh no. Just kidding. Thank you, Mayor. I will try to be quick.
I don't
All
know
right.
if you caught that. We took a sip
I
in
did, I
solidarity.
That's gonna be our new thing at council meetings. We're gonna all take a sip of water whenever it's Rich is reading an ordinance. So I like it. It's very, very team building. All right, so
I missed that.
it's all right. We have this is the second reading of the ordinance. It was introduced in November. Ordinance 2 of 2023 of the mayor and council of the town of Bladensburg granting a renewal of the cable franchise to Comcast of Maryland LLC and authorizing a franchise agreement. Whereas pursuant to 5-201 of the local government article annotated code of Maryland, the town of Bladensburg has the power to pass such ordinances as it deems necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the municipality. Whereas the mayor and council have the power under 5-204D of local government article annotated code of Maryland to grant non-exclusive cable franchises. And whereas the mayor and council have adopted a cable ordinance to govern cable franchises that are located within the town. And whereas the town entered a cable franchise agreement with Comcast of Maryland, which ended in 2015, but has been extended during the negotiation of the renewal of the franchise agreement. Whereas the mayor and council authorized the negotiation of the renewal of the franchise agreement with Comcast of Maryland, and said proposed agreement has been prepared and presented to the mayor and council. And whereas the mayor and council have determined that it is in the public interest to renew the cable franchise with Comcast of Maryland LLC within the corporate limits of the town, on a condition that Comcast of Maryland LLC enter into a franchise agreement in substantially the form as attached to this ordinance. Now therefore be it ordained and enacted by the mayor and council of the town of Bladensburg, the renewal of the non-exclusive right to construct and operate a cable television system along public rights of way in the town of Bladensburg is hereby granted to Comcast of Maryland LLC, subject to the provisions of Chapter A-125 of the Town Code, and a franchise agreement between the town and Comcast Cable in a form substantially similar to that attached to this ordinance. The town of Bladensburg Town Council is authorized to endorse the franchise agreement on behalf of the town. Be it further ordained and enacted by the mayor and council of Bladensburg that upon formal introduction of the ordinance, which shall be by way of a motion duly seconded without any vote, the town clerk shall distribute a copy to each council member and shall maintain a reasonable number of copies in the office of the clerk, and shall post at town hall, the town website, the town maintain listserv, and on the town cable channel, and if time permits, any town newsletter, the proposed ordinance or a fair summary thereof, together with a notice setting out the time and place for a public hearing thereon and for its consideration by the council. The public hearing hereby set forth tonight, December 12th, 2022, shall follow the publication by at least 7 days, may be held separately or in connection with a regular or special council meeting, and may be adjourned from time to time. All persons interested shall have an opportunity to be heard. After the hearing, the council may adopt the ordinance with or without amendments or reject it. That this ordinance shall become effective 10 days after adoption, provided that as soon as practicable after adoption, the town clerk shall post a fair summary of the ordinance and a notice of its adoption at town hall, to the website, to the maintain listserv, on the town cable channel, and in a newsletter. If any section, subsection, provision, sentence, clause, phrase, or word of this ordinance is for any reason held to be illegal or otherwise invalid by any court of competent jurisdiction, such invalidity shall be severable and shall not affect or impair any remaining section, subsection, provision, sentence, clause, phrase, or word included with this ordinance. It being the intent of the town that the remainder of the ordinance shall be and shall remain in full force and effect, valid and enforceable. Introduced by the mayor and council at a regular meeting on the 14th day of November, 2022, and adopted by the mayor and council of the town of Bladensburg at a regular meeting on the 12th day of December, 2022. And that's it, Mayor. And I would just also point out for the sake of the public record, that the town attorney was present at the last month's meeting to present this. to the council. She drafted the ordinance that was read into the record. And also she was on the negotiating team for the Comcast agreement. So I wanted the record to make sure the state that that was all done by our town attorney.
Great, thank you for that information, Mr. Charnovich, and for the second reading of ordinance number 02-2023. At this time, I'll call for a motion to approve the ordinance.
I so move.
Moved by Councilmember Blunt. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Rao. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. So Mr. Charnovich, you'll take care of posting the signed agreement at the town hall. Thank you for that. At this time, we'll move forward with the financial business, beginning with the ordinance adoption of the ARPA budget amendment. So we'll let you grab some water and get prepared to read the next.
Woo, I'm gonna drink some water with you on that one.
Richard, do you want me to share the screen to show the budget amendment?
Yeah, that'd be great, Mr. Tinelli. Thank you.
Everybody see it? Make sure I share the right thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Good, great. Oh, and before I start, you will notice that number 4 was added. You'll see when I read it, but I just want to point out that it was that night item was discussed in the town work session this evening. If you weren't a part of the work session, so we'll get to that item when we get there. And also, I would point out that I labeled this particular ordinance an emergency ordinance. I was discussing with Mr. Tinelli this concept. I know, as I understand it, practice here in Bladensburg has occasionally been to do one reading of an ordinance, which our charter allows us to do. And I think that with a lot of these moving budget parts, we want to pass it in one reading, I guess is my point, rather than having to introduce and then wait 30 days to adopt. So that's why it's considered an emergency ordinance this time. So emergency ordinance number 3 of 2023, fiscal year 2023 budget amendment. An ordinance to amend the operating budget of the town of Bladensburg, Maryland for 2023 fiscal year, July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Whereas town administrator of the town of Bladensburg has made a recommendation to the mayor and council to amend the FY23 budget to reallocate funding as part of this fiscal year. And whereas the mayor and council of town of Bladensburg have determined it is in the best interest of the town to pass this budget amendment ordinance at the December 12th, 2022 town council meeting tonight. Now, therefore, be it enacted and ordained by the mayor and council of the town of Bladensburg, the following amendments are made to the general operating budget for fiscal year 2023. Number 1, allocate $117,000 of ARPA funding for the buttress repair project, an archaeological project at the Boswick House and grounds. Transfer $30,000 from the town administrator compensation line item to a public safety capital outlay line item for the purpose of purchasing a mobile police camera. Number 3, allocate $500,000 of additional ARPA funding for the rental and mortgage assistance program. And number 4, that was discussed during the work session this evening, transfer approximately $17,000 from the public works compensation line item to public safety capital outlay line item for the purpose of purchasing a new Dell PowerEdge server for the town to replace the old server. And be it further enacted and ordained that upon passage, this ordinance shall be authenticated by the signature of the mayor and clerk, shall be recorded in a book kept for that purpose. In addition, this ordinance shall be published by posting a certified copy of it in the town hall for 10 days following its adoption, pursuant to Article 2 Section 209 of the Charter of the Town of Bladensburg, Maryland, and will be effective the 22nd day of December 2022, 10 days from today.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Charnovich, for
you, Mayor.
reading the emergency ordinance. And so with that, I'll call for a motion to approve emergency ordinance number number 03-2023.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Rout. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
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 Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. At this time, the next item regarding annual leave carryover was initially discussed at the last council meeting. I'm sorry, forgive me. Let me restart the timer. And during the last meeting, we were notified by the interim town administrator that we had 2 employees who were above the cap for maximum leave to carry over to another year, which our personnel policy states is 360 hours. But given the state of emergency due to the COVID pandemic, we did vote in 2020 to extend that amount to 440 hours through the end of 2022. So the reason for the discussion last month was that we're coming up on that expiration. And so given that we, again, only have 2 employees who this would affect, we certainly don't want them to lose any leave that they've rightfully accumulated. And so just wanted to ask for the council's support with a motion to extend the annual leave the annual leave limit to a maximum of 440 hours through the end of 2023 in recognition that we're still having employees working through the COVID-19 pandemic.
So move.
Moved by Councilmember Rout. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember McBride. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
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 Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you all so much. And again, really appreciate the support for our team. The next item under financial business is the resolution related to the ambulance transfer to the fire department. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Charnovich for the reading of that resolution.
Back. Thank you,
Rich, I'm
Mayor.
gonna share this one as well.
Like I'm hosting the Oscars here.
I thought you meant you were gonna share in the drinking of the water.
Thank you, Mr. Tonelli.
I'm getting there. Hold on one second. Where are you, baby? Where are you? Is that all right? That's a full screen, so you see the other things, but
Is it possible, Mr. Tonelli, to make it a little bit bigger for those who are viewing on their screens? Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
So a quick preamble to the resolution. I know Mr. Tonelli last month provided a detailed historical perspective on the on this ambulance and purchasing and the process that we've been through to get up into to this date. So with that, I'll read the resolution into the record. Whereas pursuant to section 5-201 of the local government article annotated code of Maryland, the town of Bladensburg, hereinafter the town, has the power to pass such ordinances as it deems necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the municipality. Whereas the town purchased a 2022 model year Freightliner M2 ambulance chassis on 12/15/2020 for $78,665 through the CARES Act funds. And whereas the town also provided for a liquid suspension option for $8,567 on 3/17/21 to add to the chassis of the ambulance chassis before taking delivery. And whereas the ambulance body to be manufactured to be placed on the ambulance chassis has been ordered, we paid for by the Bladensburg Volunteer Fire Department with expected completion in December of 2022. And whereas the town has not yet taken ownership or delivery of the ambulance chassis, and whereas the ambulance chassis is of no use to the town or its residents without the ambulance body, and whereas the ownership of the ambulance body is proposed to be transferred to the Bladensburg Fire Department for the consideration that the ambulance will be used and maintained by the BVFD for the health and protection of the town's residents. And whereas the mayor and council determined that it is in the public interest to transfer the interest of the town in the ambulance chassis to the Bladensburg Volunteer Fire Department. Now therefore be it ordained and enacted by the mayor and council of the town of Bladensburg that the ownership of the 2022 model year Freightliner M2 ambulance chassis be and is hereby transferred to the Bladensburg Volunteer Fire Department, that the manufacturer's certificate of origin may be issued to the Bladensburg Volunteer Fire Department, introduced by the mayor and council of the town of Bladensburg at a regular meeting on November 14th, 2022, and thereafter this ordinance was prominently posted in the town hall and available for public inspection. I actually, let me go back a second. I noted a typo there, so let me reread that for the record. Introduced by the mayor and council of the town of Bladensburg at a regular meeting on December 12th, 2022, and thereafter the resolution was prominently posted in the town hall and available for inspection by the public. And it's if an action is taken, adopted by the mayor and council of the town of Bladensburg at a regular meeting on the 12th day of December 2022, which this will be amended. And again, for the sake of the public record that I didn't mention at the very beginning, our town attorney did draft this resolution to be up for consideration. Mr. Tonelli and I did have a conversation with her on the best way to handle the ambulance transfer. And I think that concludes the resolution reading.
Great, thank you, Mr. Charnovich. And so with that, is there a motion to approve the resolution to complete the ambulance transfer from the town of Bladensburg to the Bladensburg Volunteer Fire Department?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember McBride. Any questions or further comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
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 Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. And let's see, so we did already take care of the audit approval. So that is the end of the financial business for tonight's meeting. With respect to the new server proposal from the town IT consultant, Mr. Charnovich, do you or Mr. Tonelli want to walk us through that? I'm sorry, I just realized your hand is up. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right, Mayor. Yeah, well, to answer your question, yeah, I could take the new server proposal, but I did want to mention, did we accidentally skip over the municipal tax duplication?
Sorry, Mr. Tonelli. That was my fault.
That's all right.
So we are not done with financial business. So at this time,
Oh,
Vito's
good.
been warming
Vito's
up.
very eager.
Yeah, he's been warming up over there. He's like, you will not ignore the tax differential presentation.
And I'm sure everybody is super eager to see a presentation on taxes too. So, yeah.
Of course we are.
I've made this presentation a few times to the mayor and council every year and try to freshen this up a little bit. I'll go through this pretty quickly. Give me a second. Does everybody see this? Always want to make sure everybody sees the main
Yes,
screen
we
up
can
here.
see it.
Okay, beautiful. Okay. It's actually the tax differential submission, which is kind of like a credit for tax duplication. So just clarify that a little bit. What it is what we do every year is there's some, I'm not going to read you the definitions. the town provides a service to the residents and the county provides a service to the residents. Now, when the town provides a service, the county does not have to. So the county, in a nutshell, gives the residents a discount on their property tax. That's what this is all about. And the theory is that residents are not, and business owners, because there's two taxes we're talking about here: the real property tax rate and the business property tax rate. For this presentation, we're going to talk about the real property tax rate, what hits the residents, but the same goes to the businesses, but I'm just going to focus on the residential property tax rate. So by reducing the county property tax rate in municipalities, homeowners are not taxed twice for the services that they receive. And there's certain qualifications here. One of the main things that stuck out, I was like, wait a minute, how come we don't get credit for trash service? We provide, trash collection twice a week when the county only provides it once a week, and we're providing it ourselves and paying for it. It's a large expense. That's not an eligible expense because there's something called a solid waste fund in the county. This has to come out of its own general operating revenues and expenses. Solid waste fund is a separate fund that creates its own income and expenses. So that, unfortunately, is not included in the tax differential for the town. It's still a great service that we provide to the residents, but Bladensburg takes that on themselves. But the eligible services that we do get a tax differential, I call it differential, let's just call it discount, are for mostly police-related services, patrol, 911, code enforcement, and the county keeps putting more of an emphasis now on animal control. That they're getting more of a tax differential for animal control, and also for fire services. Now, we don't have our own fire department. We don't have a town fire department, even though we do. They are a separate entity, but we do support them with quarterly donations that are budgeted throughout the year, and also, of course, public works. So everybody likes pie charts. I say this all the time. I love to hammer it home. Town Bladensburg is a service organization. 84% of our budget directly provides services to the town. And Chief always wants me to make sure that we show his pie here is the most expensive, and the most. It takes a lot to provide that service because police is not just police; it's everything else that is in support of police. For anybody new to municipal government, it's not just putting an officer on the street. I would say, it takes, at least 2 to 3 support personnel and budget for every officer almost. So a big part of our budget is public safety, and in there is code enforcement, ARPA, public works, and small amount for grants. So that makes up the service-related portion that the county looks at that we provide to get a discount to the residents on the property taxes. So you can see the other 16% is your G&A or general administrative costs. Okay, quick background. Really quick, the county comes up with its own tax rate equivalent. And what it is I try to fall into this over the years, but the discount that we get is pretty much a 3-year rolling average, which, in government, it's always, a little bit more complicated. We can't just take, next year's tax differential, apply it to the resident's tax bill, and they get a discount. It's a 3-year rolling average of everything that the last 3 years tax differentials. Okay, let's just get into the numbers. This is the county's budget. Again, another pie chart. Okay, so largest part of their budget is education. And what's impacted the tax differential process this year was, this is the first year in the county's budget that the county had to fund Kerwin, the state's blueprint for education. So more of the pie has shifted to education and less of the pie has shifted to county services. Not much. I mean, we're talking about small percentage amounts, but it affects what towns are eligible for now in terms of tax differential, because as you provide more education, I looked at last year's budget, and public safety went down from like 20, almost 21% to 19.6%. So they're spending a little bit less on public safety to fund education. So what happens then is this is the tax differential that counties can apply for, the highest amount. So and this is again the real property rate. So county charges $1 for real property rate, or like, that $1 per 100, everything else. So going back to this previous chart, there's not much here. Most of the budget is on education for the county. So the rest is services they can provide to residents. And this is the largest chart up here is the business personal property tax rate, which is at $2, or I'm sorry, $2.50. So what's happened, and as you can see, in better years, the county can offer more of a higher amount for tax differential to the towns. And as we get down into the more trying times, I guess you could say, there's less of a differential to apply for. So what does that mean in terms for us? Well, last year we got residents received almost just over 13 cents per dollar for discount. This year it's just about 10 cents per dollar. And you can see the same up here with the tax differential rate for for business personal property tax, which is set at $2.09. So, so what happens is there's a small discount that the residents are getting off the taxes they pay to the county and remit to the town of Bladensburg. Why did it drop off this year? The big thing was public works vehicles. We budgeted and spent last year for a new dump truck. We got a nice differential for that. We didn't have a replacement vehicle in this year, so we didn't get any of this tax differential here. And I came back and said, hey, wait a minute, we budgeted it, but we have not received it yet. We're going to receive it this year, and we may, add. They said no, it's got to be budgeted and spent in the fiscal year. So we lost this funding here. I'm sorry, this spreadsheet, I'm trying to be quick here. This is the county tax differential that they could give max last year. This is the max this year. And this is what we received this year as well. Now, one of the big blanks here is a fire department. Again, we don't have our own fire department. The fire department is separate. But we did get a credit here for the contributions we do make to a volunteer fire department. And this is the letter from the county saying, why they, approved or disapproved anything I asked for. One of the things I did ask for was more money or more of a tax differential here for aging. We only got 20%, and I asked for, where is it here? I asked for a tax differential of 50%. And the reason is because a Port Towns bus that we pay for, it's a great service, but they said, while the county recognizes that the town provides activities for seniors as well as daily transportation, the town is not duplicating a social service provided by the county. So we're not doing it. So the county is doing it as well. So they denied me on that request. I'm really thinking about appealing it, but it's pretty hard to. I've appealed these before, and I've been turned down every time because I'm trying to fight for the residents to get more of a discount for them. And just so you know, this is a tax differential that's coming back to the residents. There's also a tax differential that would, in some jurisdictions, that they would take the difference and give it back to the town. Okay, so it would go in the town's operating budget. But this is a tax this is a tax, again, like a discount that would go back to the residents. It's a 3-year rolling average. So it's going to be the average of these three of these 3 years that they will see on their tax bill for FY24. So this isn't for this year, it's for FY24. So I'm gonna stop there because take some questions and everything.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Tonelli. We are at time.
Yeah,
So let
I'm
me
sorry.
just see. It's okay. If there's a quick question, hold on, let me scroll. Councilmember Route.
Thank you, Mayor James. I was very shocked to see that we only got 10 cents on the dollar for the seniors. We support a lot of the programs. We do a lot. We give stipends to each of the councils for the senior buildings. Will we be able to advocate on that? In addition to, like, we have senior specific health events where all the time there's a health aspect to our senior initiatives that are just for town seniors. So I'm not sure if we want to like go back and appeal or something, because I feel like we do a lot for our seniors.
Yeah, I totally understand, Councilmember Route. Mr. Tonelli, I know the argument for the county is it has to duplicate their services that they're providing for our residents. So let's say we throw an event for seniors on mental health. If they're not currently providing that same service to Bladensburg seniors, is that going to be eligible for consideration?
Well, that's what I put in the request. Going back to Councilmember Route's statement about that, and I specifically put in there in the request, I said that the town actively engages our senior population through our activities and events held throughout the year, including, I'm not going to read them all, but our annual senior picnic, Thanksgiving meals, Yule log celebration, Black History Month celebration, Easter egg roll, Mental Health Awareness Day, several pop-up events. We provide transportation for our seniors to events listed above. On top of that, I've engaged, we also provide funding of $1,500 each of 3 senior housing, then that we increased to $3,000 through the ARPA funds. I spelled all this out.
And the answer was still no.
And that's why they, I hate to say this, but I think that's why they included that letter of why, because I pretty much appealed every year.
Yeah.
So it's
Thank you for trying. I
Yeah.
appreciate
yeah,
you.
Absolutely agree.
honestly,
Thank you.
honestly, I thought that was a slam dunk. And when I saw that come back, Councilmember Route, I was like, really? You know, so it's, I mean, because you know, they're important to the town, and we provide a lot of activities, and to get knocked down by the county, like, you know, and they just say, well, you know, we recognize that the town does this, but the county does it as well.
Yeah,
So
totally
that was there.
understand.
Yeah.
But thank you, Mr. Tonelli, for the
Mhm.
presentation and for distilling it down into a couple of minutes for us. I know it's getting late and we have to move forward.
I think Councilmember Brown has a question.
Well, nothing, just
Councilmember
real
Brown?
quick. Yeah, thank you, man. Maybe, maybe we need to back into it and see what is allowed. That's all right.
Mhm. Okay.
I know.
So that now completes financial business. And so now we're over to new business for tonight's agenda. And the item up first is the new server proposal from the town IT consultant. I know we did include the amount in the emergency budget ordinance that was approved tonight, but would just need a formal approval from the council to accept the proposal from our IT provider.
Mayor James.
Is there a hand up? Yes, Councilmember Route.
I move to accept the proposal from our IT consultant for the new server.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Councilmember McBride. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mayor, just real quick.
Mhm.
Just as also would recommend that they go back and look at those specifications and look at terabytes and not some gigabytes. And then also with the
The labor, that was the second thing that you recommended. Yep. And I believe, Mr. Charnovich, I want to put words in your mouth, but you did make notes during the work session to go back for those 2 things for clarification.
I did. Thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Brown. One was the breakdown of the labor cost in the proposal, and the second one was regarding the terabyte question. So I did make notes. Yes, I did.
All right, thank you. And with that, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
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 Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much, everyone. Next up, we discussed 2 letters of support, the first being for the Walkable Watershed Education and Stewardship Letter for the University of Maryland's Environmental Finance Center. Is there a motion to approve the letter as discussed in tonight's work session?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Brown. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Blunt. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you. And again, the second letter of support for the Dueling Creek Bridge located in Cottage City, as was shown when Mr. Charnovich shared his screen, is definitely needed by our Port Towns partners. And so would ask for a motion to approve the letter of support.
I so moved.
Moved by Councilmember Blunt. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Rao. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. And now it's time for the staff reports at 3 minutes each, beginning with the treasurer's report. And don't feel bad saying you forego, or if you want to abbreviate it, since you have your written reports, that is very okay with us, right, council? Yes.
Mayor, I was going to make that suggestion, but thank you for go ahead and but yes, I did submit a written one, and I think on the heels of the audit and everything else, I think I can go ahead and forgo my report at the pleasure of the council. Thumbs up.
Thank you. Thumbs up.
Okay, good. Okay.
All right. Over to public safety and code enforcement. And I'm going to lump fire safety in there as well, since we are blessed to have Chief Sumner with us. So Chief Collington, I'll turn it over to you first.
Mayor, I'll be very, very brief. Just make 2 announcements. One, we have a new gun detection technology surrounding the town. And unfortunately, there was a double homicide that occurred on Annapolis Road outside of the town of Bladensburg. But our new technology was instrumental in pinpointing exactly where the shots were fired from, and it was useful for the homicide detectives. So I want to say, it came in play just when we needed it. And additionally, I just want to say thank you to so many of our law enforcement partners for our Shop with a Cop. It was a huge success. Our town staff, our town officers, I just can't express enough how grateful I am that we all came together and were able to put smiles on a lot of families' faces this holiday season. And with that, I will leave everything to my report, and I will end it there.
Thank you so much, Chief. Code Enforcement Officer Reinhardt, any updates on code?
I'm going to keep it very brief. I just want to do a friendly reminder. We are doing our holiday lighting contest. Any resident that wants to be judged, make sure you send an email to myself. The email address is rreinhardt. That's going to be rreinehart@bladensburgmd.gov. We want to make sure that we get you in to be judged. Judging will be occurring the end of this week. And that completes my report. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Do you need any help judging from the council?
We can
It's
take
always fun.
all the help I can get.
All right, you guys heard it first. And Councilmember Blunt, did you have a question?
Are y'all judging the buildings? I'm just asking.
We're judging the exterior of the buildings. We're not doing any interior judging. Everything's going to be exterior.
Good question. Thank you, Officer Reinhardt. And we'll turn it over to Chief Sumner for fire department updates.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you guys hear me okay? It's a brand new laptop, so I'm still getting used to it.
Loud and clear.
Thank you, ma'am. Just real quick, so far for the year of 2022, between our engine, our ladder truck, and our ambulance, we've responded to over 4,756 calls for the year. And again, as a reminder, this is guys volunteering their time. We have no career staffing at all. So that's a lot of calls, and we're actually down calls. We're down about 1,800 calls for the year, given previous pre-COVID. So still a busy time, but not as busy as we have been. And keep an eye on our Facebook page, because sometime this weekend we'll be releasing the dates that the parade for Santa Claus will be going through the town. And I'd also like to thank the mayor and council for the ambulance and the resolution. Mr. Tonelli has the most updated production pictures. If he wants to share them or pass them around in emails, I emailed the entire production, so he has those for you guys.
Great. Thank you so much for those updates, Chief Sumner, and thank you to all of our public safety officials here in the leadership, but the teams that you represent for all your service day in and day out to our community. We truly appreciate you all. So next we'll move forward with the town clerk and interim town administrator report.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. In the interest of time, I will forego my report, but I would like to wish everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all the above. And look forward to 2023 and taking on all the challenges that we have to face. So
Thank you.
have a great one, everyone.
Thank you. And thanks for your humor with the reading of all the ordinances and resolutions tonight.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, so that concludes our staff report. So we'll move forward with mayor and council reports, beginning
Yeah,
with.
do we have town on? I mean, do we have public works on?
We do not, I do not see Mr. Hall, but we do have his written report in the council
Okay.
packet. So we'll move forward with mayor and council reports, beginning with Councilmember Rout for Ward 1.
Thank you, Mayor James. I have worked with the residents of Quincy Village on just their support and working with the CASA of Maryland as it relates to the issues that they are having with their landlord. Great news. The rent strike has yielded positive results, where now the landlord is willing to meet with the residents of Quincy Village. So it is my hopes that the meeting will be favorable and they will hear from the residents with open ears and really try to work to change how they're doing business, because right now how they're doing business is not friendly, it's not welcoming, and it's not promoting that Bladensburg cares. So our business community, along with our residents, we create this community, and we have been in existence for 280 years. So it's just my hopes that the landlord comes to the table. I want to just thank my colleagues on this same vein with really doing a lot of investigative work. We have been looking at legislation. We've been talking to legislators in the state of Maryland, at the state level, at the county level, on this particular issue. And so we don't want to just make a decision that's going to damage the town of Bladensburg. We want to, really take our time and investigate what's presently going on. And so as legislative season opens up, we have PGCMA watching this. We have a lot of our delegates in District 47 looking at this. We have a phenomenal District 47 team. They have introduced us to many different players that represent landlords, such as property owners like Southern Management and other, so that we can just talk to them. So I just appreciate all of the residents' support, and my colleagues and I, we're really working hard on this. In addition to responding to individual needs, I continue to really encourage everyone to wear their masks. We are entering into a tri-epidemic, which is RSV, flu, season and COVID-19. And so with that being said, I will submit a formal written report. It was kind of stuck in my email box, but I just want to, just really thank the council for working alongside with me on these particular issues. I yield.
Thank you so much for your monthly report, Councilmember Rout. Next, we'll move forward with our other council member from Ward 1, Councilmember Trina Brown.
Thanks, Mayor James. Just really quick, I would like to inform the public that on December the 15th at 9:00 a.m., the council, two of the council members and myself will hold a special meeting, and this is to discuss the opera funding for the town's businesses. And I want to wish everyone a very safe, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. And look forward to seeing you all in the new year in 2023.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Brown. And next we'll move over to Councilmember McBride for Ward 2.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm gonna just give one brief thing that I really want to say, and I'm gonna forego all the rest of it. But I want to thank the town of Bladensburg for working with VGC and the Now Foundation when we gave out the baskets for the town. It was really receptive, and also with the seniors. Thank you for all the council members and the mayor, and I'm grateful. I'm glad. I think it turned out good. That's it.
And thank you to the police department. I think they
Oh
helped
yeah,
with
the police
stuffing.
department. I'm sorry,
Yes.
chief.
They probably had the assembly line going.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilmember McBride. And Councilmember Blunt, over to you for Ward 2.
Good evening and happy holidays to come. Anyway, I'd like to say thank you to everyone that supported the senior gala. I mean, staff. Thank you, Mayor, for working with me on this project that was very dear to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I just thank everyone. I mean, it was a well put together program. Chief, I'd like to say thank you for not getting me beat up when you came up to, give the residents their baskets, because I was going to get hammered. So I'd like to say thank you to everybody who supported. And anytime you work with seniors and the community, thank you so much. And I always say I'm a phone call away. And thank your husband too for showing up. That's all I'm hearing about. But thank you.
That's wonderful. I'm glad you're hearing positive feedback. And we appreciated the opportunity, as I said before, to work with you, Councilmember Blunt, on bringing your vision to reality, and can't wait to do it again. So I'll move quickly. I just set the timer for myself. So in terms of reporting out for last month, I did want to mention that I did join the PGCMA Legislative Committee. And so during the month of November, we really worked hard to refine the legislative plan for the 2023 session, not just for the state, but also for the county. So in doing so, our priorities for state will be reform of vehicle exhaust noise, because that is a major disturbance to our residents. When you're got your baby to sleep finally, and then you hear these loud cars going by, or even for those of us who may work or just be resting, it is a disturbance. The other state legislative priority is on accessory dwelling unit authorization. And so really to ask the state to provide the local municipalities with authorization to create guidelines for that. So if you're caring for an aging parent, let's say, and you need to move them into your home to save money, but also easily provide care, that the local municipality would be able to determine the guidelines and application process for those. We also identified increasing stormwater management funding from the state. And then with respect to the county legislation, incorporating inclusionary zoning, and then also partnering with the county on equitable development as well as traffic congestion improvement, which is a major sore spot. Also, we're asking for support from the state with respect to the MML priority on creating police accountability boards for municipalities who can support those and have their own police departments, such as Bladensburg. And then the second area under that, which is more directed to the county, well, I'm sorry, it's directed at the county and state, is the affordable housing initiatives, and primarily with rent stabilization, or basically prevention of price gouging, which affects residents at Quincy Village. We're also monitoring a few other items, but I do want to say, and formulating these priorities, Quincy Village was at the top of mind as I was articulating to my colleagues on the committee the need for the rent stabilization. And Friday, we did have our legislative meet and greet. So not only did we present the priorities, but I was able to meet with Senator Augustine, meet with Delegate Fennell at that event, talk to them about the urgency of now, why this is important, and get some buy-in from them. And I was also introduced to, I believe he's the chief of staff for the county executive. So we were able to meet Friday night. He took a bunch of notes. He's checking with legal to understand what jurisdiction and legal authority the county has to act now. And if there isn't any, to start working with us so we move in that direction, getting that necessary legislative authority from the state. So this is not something that we're waiting on, as my colleague said, Councilmember Rout, we're trying to do this the right way and do it smart. So we're not playing whack-a-mole and quickly passing legislative ordinances and laws in one town and having bad actors pop up in another community. We want to have a united front as we work to provide affordable housing for Prince George's County and more broadly for the state of Maryland. So that concludes my overview, but I'll make sure to get in a written report as well. And that the final report from me will conclude the mayor and council report as it relates to activities over the last month. I do want to thank everyone for their engagement all year long that is a part of the Bladensburg team. Thank you, Councilmember Blunt. Thank you, Councilmember McBride. Thank you, Councilmember Rout. Thank you, Councilmember Brown, for just being great partners this year. We're still working through the pandemic, but it has been a pleasure serving with each of you. I want to thank our amazing staff represented here and the teams that you lead, and Supervisor Reinhardt, Mr. Charnovich, Chief Collington, Mr. Tonelli, Chief Sumner. Thank you for all that you do. It's hard to believe this year has come and gone already. This is our last time meeting for 2022, but you all have been an absolute blessing, and I'm so thankful for all that you continue to do to help our residents. And so with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Excuse me, Mayor. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I would like to make an announcement real quick if I can.
Sure.
The delegate would like for me to inform you guys that we're doing a toy drive on December 22nd at the VFD on Rhode Island Avenue. We would be really grateful if you guys could come out and, you know, participate if you're available. Other than that, I'd just like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and all that stuff.
Thank you so much. And thank you for jumping in. I apologize. I should have asked if you had any announcements, but yes, we will make a note of that. And I think we have the flyer so we can get that out in our e-blast this week. I'll talk to Mr. Charnovich offline about doing that. But again, with that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Hey, Mayor.
One more thing.
I was like looking at the time. Did you go over your 3 minutes?
I sure did. The power of the gavel. I went 3 minutes and 20 seconds. And with that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilmember Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Rout. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Again, good night and happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Until next year. Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays,
Bye,
everyone.
Chief.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.